I'm guessing you're not from Devon and you're not from Essex either.
No. Catching. I'm from Pennsylvania, and people find that really funny around here because they say, "Oh, you mean just up the road."
The people in Exeter would find that extremely funny. Yeah.
I'm from the United States. I've been in the UK for about 9 years, and in Exeter since 2006. I just completed a PhD at the university.
Brilliant. The Bike Shed Theatre in Exeter, we're great friends of them. We've had David on before, and Joe Selman-Lever's been on the programme, one of the actors from there.
He's one of my students.
He's one of your students, isn't he?
He was when he was
right.
at
It's almost like performing in a bunker, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's very, I mean, I don't know, well, maybe you try and describe. I've tried before to describe it to the listeners, but that haven't been there.
It's musty Victorian cellar, with amazing brickwork and flagstone flooring, and the designer Cherry Truelock, who did the set and costume design, really wanted to use that. So if you come see the show, you'll get to experience the brick, and it's nice. That
must be really atmospheric for the particular stories that you're doing now.
Yes, it's we've had good response so far, and
are you? Is it 1 week into a 3-week run?
Yes, yeah. We've got this is the end of the first week, but we're on till the 19th.
And how's it been going so far?
Yeah, it's been. We had some great previews, and then last night was very special because it was the actual 70th anniversary. Yeah. We had 11 of the real people, and then some of their loved ones in the audience. So it was kind of hearing their words spoken back to them. So it was a very magical atmosphere, and they were all very happy. And
must have been a very emotional experience.
Yes, it was. I think there weren't many dry eyes in there.
And also, I mean, you're nowhere near close to the age of somebody who could remember what went on in the Blitz. How do you put yourself in the position of somebody that's giving you those experiences to turn it into a project on stage?
Well, I mean, with this kind of work, I mean, it's kind of known in the theatre industry as verbatim theatre, but my co-director Helena prefers the term theatre of testimony. But really, when we kind of met these people, they invited us into our homes. They were so welcoming, giving us tea and biscuits and really making us feel at ease and just telling us these amazing stories. And so we were just really listening. And then our job after we met all these people was to transcribe the interviews and kind of lift the stories that could help tell a story of what happened to Exeter, because we've met so many people that aren't even aware they're from here, but they don't even know it was blitzed, and it did actually affect the landscape so much. I mean, what we walking through now in Princess Hay and all that wouldn't have been there if this hadn't happened. And there's so many references, about Sidwell Street and different places, and since meeting these people and working on the show, I walk around the city differently than I did before.
Okay, we'll find out more as we go through the day, and as I say, we'll revisit one or two of those memories from the Blitz as well. Okay, all this week we've been hearing stories and memories of the Blitz in Exeter. We've been hearing your stories on the radio, and I just want to take a look back at some of them before we speak to a group of people putting on the Exeter Blitz project. They are 1 week into a 3-week performance at the Bike Shed Theatre in Exeter. These are just some of the stories we've been hearing on BBC Radio Devon this week.
I can remember going with my mother into Exeter one day, and we walked into Exeter, and coming out, all the roads we were trying to come down to come home had unexploded bombs, and you weren't allowed down the roads. It took us ages to get home. But I can always remember, the trust that you didn't know somebody, but everybody helped everybody. Let's put it like that.
He heard somebody calling out, a man calling out. He was completely stuck with a beam over his legs, which couldn't be moved. Unfortunately, there was fire encroaching onto this particular area, because this area had so many incendiary bombs that fire was one of the worst things that people had. And so he shouted back, and he was given a syringe because the fire was encroaching. The man would have been burnt alive, and he was given a syringe with morphine in it, and he gave it to this man, made him unconscious, and then beat a retreat. And that is something that he remembered for the rest of his life.
Rationing got suspended for 10 days, And then if you went into the city centre, everything above St Stephen's Church, right out on top of Siddle Street, was flattened, absolutely flattened, all gone, yeah, just a pile of rubble. And all the buses had to go around New North Road because they just could not go off High Street and Siddle Street.
And it's stories like that that have made up the Exeter Blitz project, which my next three guests can tell us a little bit more about, joined by Justine, by Jess and by Kate, from currently performing at the Bike Shed Theatre. Wow, is all I can say. That in particular, I know there are millions of stories, and it's not just Exeter. It's just because Exeter it's the 70th anniversary, but there are lots of places that suffered through the Blitz. But that middle story in particular that I heard on Matt Woodley's Good Morning Devon this week really made me stop and think that there were actually situations where people had to go into buildings and they couldn't do anything to help the people trapped in them other than give them enough morphine for them not to know that the end was coming.
Oh, it's really astounding, that story, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So these are the stories that you've been taking. How do you take a story like that and make it into a production performance?
Oh, well, you have to come and see to find out.
Emotionally, how do you do it?
Well, I mean, one thing that the first person who was interviewed, was talking about a sense of community. That all the interviews we had were so joyful. I mean, yes, some of them are recalling pretty horrific things that happened in their lives, but I don't know if it's just that it's 70 years space, on. But everyone was joyful and remembering. And I guess you can always look back with nostalgia, but really that there was a sense of community and people working together. And, a lot of them have very fond memories of that period of their lives, especially the younger ones, because for them it was their childhood. And so they just thought that the air raid sirens and that was kind of a normal part of being a child, but they do have good memories of that time in their life.
How did you gather the stories?
We put a flyer together, a call for stories out in November, and the Express and Echo published in January, and so then we were flooded in, and we got one through the Imperial War Museum. They let us put flyers out up there, and then our first interview came through that. But most of the rest of them saw the story in the Express and Echo and got in touch with us. And initially we thought we might need to collect secondhand testimonies, like people's parents who had passed away but had vivid stories to tell. But in the end, we had so many people come forward to us that we didn't need to do that.
And it was quite... the Blitz on Exeter was quite different to a lot of other places because it wasn't a strategic defence action. It was actually... It was an attack on civilians, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was part of the Baedeker raids, which were named after a guidebook by Thomas Baedeker, which is basically... highlighting beautiful cities in England, and it was retaliation for the bombing of the city of Lubeck, which I think was in early April or March before, and they started with Exeter on the 23rd and 24th of April, then went on to Bath, and I believe Canterbury, York and Norwich as well, and then back to Exeter.
So you've got these stories and you've got this whole catalogue of people telling you stories. You've then got to turn that into something that people will come and watch. What's that process? Do you take it verbatim? Because you used the word verbatim earlier on, but...
Yes, all the text is from transcripts of the interviews.
But if the person telling the story comes to see the play, they see somebody else...
Yes.
Which happened last night, actually. We had a large number of them come and watch it last night, which was a rather weird experience for them and for the actors and for all of us, I think, for having
really
worked with the
emotional experience. It was. I think in the last, when everyone was clapping and the actors were clapping the audience and the audience were clapping the actors, and it was a really, really beautiful exchange of kind of respect for, thank you for giving your stories, and they were so pleased to see them being told. And
without giving too much away, then is this? Have you turned it into a play, a production, or is it just a whole group of monologues? What's the? I don't want to steal your thunder for anyone that's going along to see.
It is definitely a piece of theatre,
right?
And there's some art to it and beautiful design. I'm very proud of. I'm proud of all of everyone's hard work, but I think it won't be clinical monologue reading, and I think people, if they should come, if they have any connection to Exeter, they will love it.
And there's an awful lot of humour in it.
Yes.
Most of last night there was a lot of love. So there's a lot that's to be found in it that's really funny and heartwarming as well. So, and
as we were saying earlier, the Bike Shed is a very intimate theatre. You can almost, if you're sitting in the back row, you can still reach out and touch the actors, can't you? I mean, it's a very intimate theatre and a lovely place to be for the atmospherics. Who makes up your audience? Is it all people who can remember, or are there youngsters that come along as well for the
It's mixed. I mean, we had university students in, along with people that remember some of the places that were mentioned in the script. So we've had a nice big age range so far, and they've all responded to it. And some of the older people have loved watching the younger people respond to comments in the play. And it's been very well received.
Okay, you're the first week in of 2 weeks, so this is of a 2 week, 1 week in, 2 weeks to go, 3 week production. Is it a full house each night? Are you selling out?
We hope.
We sold out last night.
We still have we want more people to come down. But we had fairly full houses for previews on the first 3 evenings, so we are hopeful. Okay,
you've got a little extract.
Yes, we do.
Now, I can help you with this, can't I? Because you use a piece of music in the production. We don't want to give too much away, but tell me about this.
This is an extract from an interview with Vera Jex, who lives in Kingsbridge, may be listening. She was 25 in 1942. So she has lots of wonderful stories. We don't want to give away the big ones in Act 2, but this is one from towards the beginning.
This is a little taster then.
Little taster.
Okay. Yeah. And would it help if I went like this?
Lovely. I'm right there.
Of course, my husband was abroad, you know. He was on a lot of ships during the war. I was working in Marks and Spencer's. He wasn't on the Exeter then, and he went on one called the Bonaventure. And I was in Marks and Spencer's. I was always on the dresses. I was head of dresses, 5 shillings each they were then for a dress. And anyway, I was there, you know, working one day, and somebody'd come in who knew me. And they'd said, "Hello, V." And I said, "Hello, love." So she just looked at me. She said, "You were married to Sam, weren't you?" I said, yeah, I said, "I am now." She said, "Oh," she said, "only," she said, I've been listening to the radio." "Oh, yes," I said, you know, not thinking about anything. And she said, "Oh," she said, "I'm only coming to tell you that the Bonaventure is sunk and nearly everybody's drowned." And of course, my husband was on there. Anyway, the manageress come down. She say, "This lady fancy coming in," she said, telling her that. "Look at her," she said, "she's faint and all." And anyway, I was ever so bad after. And when I come to, you know, and I thought myself, oh my God, I ain't been married very long and he's gone already. Anyway, after a few days, we heard from a proper, you know, from the naval people. And you had a nice thing just to tell you that the Bonaventure was sunk with so many down, so many killed on there, you know, the sailors. But your husband, and I remember that ever so much, because when the man come to tell me, he said, your husband, Vera, he said, was in the water, and another ship had come and saved him. And they couldn't recognise him because he was covered in black oil from the Bonaventure from top to bottom. They took him days to get all this, and that's the way he was saved. But fancy coming in like that. It's bad, isn't it? Like they were saying in Marks and Spencer's, that woman shouldn't have come in and told you that, Vera. You would have been told proper by the Navy. I ain't been married very long to Sam then, and I mean, what a dreadful thing.
We'll call on each memory till then, when I will hold you again. Please wait till then.
BBC Radio Devon playing the Mills Brothers. Until then, you have an afternoon matinee.
Yes.
You're rushing off to get there. Tell us about the rest of the productions. It's the Bike Shed Theatre in Exeter.
Yep, it's Mondays to Saturdays at 7:30 in the evening, with the Saturday matinee at 2 o'clock. And yes, come down. There's so many special stories like that, and I think anyone who loves Exeter or even just lives in Exeter will appreciate will really love it. So I mean, you're always, plugging your own work, but actually this is a really special project that people in Exeter should see, and it's brought people together. We've got a couple double acts where people have been interviewed together, and we have these two guys, Bob and Peter, who are wonderful and very funny. When they came in to be interviewed, they hadn't seen each other in 50 years. They had been neighbours and close friends all the way up until their 20s, just kind of lost touch. Peter got in touch with us to be interviewed, and then he ran into Bob on the street and said, "Do you want to come down for this interview?" And they came down together, and we had to ask them to clarify that they hadn't seen each other in 50 years because they were picking up each other's sentences and thoughts. And, and last night at the show, two of the people discovered that they're related and were at the same wedding 34 years ago. So it's been a lovely thing, yeah.
Justine, Jess, Kate, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Break a leg.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.